What's up, everybody? It's Gary B, and this is the Sports Card Strategy Show, because you know this, there is no off-season.
Yes, this is DJ Ski.
I'm Jeff Wilson.
Hey guys, Andy Broom, Vice President CGC Cards.
Hey, this is Jason Howard with Panini.
Yo, I'm Q Harrison.
This is Teapot from Sports Card Investor.
I'm loving the content.
Loving the content here.
The Sports Card Strategy Show.
The Sports Card Strategy Show.
This is the Sports Card Strategy Show with your man, Paul Hickey. What's good? Part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network, the #1 place for advice on how to make money flipping sports cards. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, there is no off-season.
You already know, there is no off-season.
No off-season!
All right, you ready to rock?
Ready to go.
When you get into this game, the reason why you pay someone like Paul Hickey to get your sports card strategy together is because sometimes when you're starting out, you need perspective, you need wisdom, you need insights. And so he's been around the track enough times where he can actually coach you up and guide you. Doesn't mean he's going to take you to the promised land tomorrow, but you now have a coach by your side that can advise and kind of even create these pathways where you can get the education yourself. And that's a lot better than thugging it out on your own. Thugging it out on your own.
What? The kids better buy my rookie card now, because after this year, the price ain't coming down.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Hickey. It's time to sit back, listen, learn, and earn with me on the Sports Card Strategy Show. What's up, everybody? Paul Hickey, Kendall the Lefty, McKee. This is the Sports Card Strategy Show. First and foremost, congratulations to Kendall the Lefty McKee on his OKC Thunder getting it done in Game 7 against the Indiana Pacers. After a TJ McConnell third quarter, the Thunder got it done. Thunder up, Lefty.
Yo, MC Key on the mic, as Paul so delicately called me at Fanatics Fest. We had a great time. What we did not have a good time doing is in the hotel room watching Game 6, and I was literally just watching our hopes of our first OKC title slip through my fingers when I had nothing to do with it. Like, it's such a helpless feeling when your team is just falling apart. But they came back really strong. I know people are going to say, oh, but Halliburton wasn't there. It was like an asterisk finals. Don't care. I'm excited.
No way. Who's going to say that? That's ridiculous.
Oh, just, all my friends in the group chat. So it's cool.
Well, tell your friends to buzz off, because there's no asterisk on this one. This is
buzz off.
Buzz off group chat. So congrats to Lefty. All right. So for those of you who are new to the Sports Card Strategy Show, we help you make money flipping sports cards. And we met a lot of you at Fanatics Fest. So there's new people tuning in from Fanatics Fest. We're going to talk about our Fanatics Fest recap, potential impact of Kevin Durant being traded on the card market, top vintage baseball plays, top eBay search phrases. We got data from eBay fed to us, which we do every so often. So appreciate that from Joey, who works for a PR company that represents eBay. He feeds me data. So shout out Joey.
We love Joey.
Top eBay search phrases heading into the national. He's become like a research assistant of sorts for the Sports Card Strategy Show. And it's some good stuff. So stay tuned for that. There is a player that I want to talk about, and we're going to go through our gauntlet and our sports card rankings at nooffseason.com. But there is a player that I would be buying if I didn't limit myself to only 5 players that I'm buying this year.
That's a red alert for us.
Yes.
Red alert.
And one thing everybody asked me back in November when I announced that I would only be buying 5 players plus 2, Cooper Flagg and Shedeur Sanders print-on-demand cards. They said, well, what's going to happen? Like, are you only going to talk about these 5 players on the Sports Card Strategy Show? And I said, hell no. I'm going to talk about a lot of players, but it's going to be good for all of you because I'm not going to be buying them. You will be buying them. So stay tuned for this guy to come up a lot in our show, a player I would be buying. So get ready for that. Also, something I did not know about PSA Autograph Authentication that I'm going to share with you guys today. Top vintage baseball plays, when to sell Arch Manning, because Arch Manning is one of the guys that I've been buying in 2025. And then a couple of housekeeping things real quick. I'll drop them right now, and I'll try to remember to drop them at the end of the episode as well. For premium members at nooffseason.com, Lefty, there will be no premium podcast this week. The next premium podcast is July 3rd. So typically every Friday, there's a premium podcast at nooffseason.com. Go to nooffseason.com/ask to ask a question, and we answer it on the premium podcast. For those of you who don't know, you can join nooffseason.com, save 20% using the promo code NOOFFSEASON, and it's personalized advice among many other great tools that we'll talk about throughout the episode. But the next premium pod will be July 3rd. The next sports card strategy episode, instead of next Monday, June 30th, it will be Tuesday, July 1st. So that won't affect any of you who just listen on Apple and Spotify, which honestly is most of you. But those of you that tune into the live show on youtube.com/Paul Hickey or on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy, if you're wondering where we are on Monday, June 30th, I'm driving my family back from our trip to Michigan, and I just said, Lefty, let's do it on Tuesday, July 1st. So I think we're going to be good to go for that show. Are you tracking your sports card profit and loss sheet properly in 2025? Sports Card School and our inventory tracker help you to do so. Go premium at nooffseason.com. Weekly, monthly, and annual pricing tiers. Like I said a minute ago, use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20% now. All right, Lefty, let's jump into our Fanatics Fest recap, because I know you're dying to talk about Fanatics Fest, and so am I. We just got back from New York, and I have some observations from the show. Lefty, I'm going to pass it over to you, though, first. I'd like you to kick us off with the good, the bad, the ugly, the awesome, the free, the flipped from Fanatics Fest. Take it away.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good was location. The good was this was their second time around. The good was Michael Rubin is an incredible business owner. The good was I think it's good for the hobby in general. The good was, all those things are good. I also think we will talk about this, I believe, but Ziggy had us on a take that he believes that Rubin specifically talked about making this a higher class is not the word I'm looking for. But
I think more of a higher spending clientele. Exactly.
Not your dollar.
It was
cards.
not a cheap event.
Yes, not a cheap event to go to. But you got to you got to spend money to make money, and we did that. And we're going to talk about how we did that, and we did that well this weekend as well. It's funny though when you buy a full ticket, and I know Paul was thinking this as well. When you buy a ticket to an event, you want to feel like you can go every day. But then after the first real day, after you do all the money-making opportunities, you're just like, I don't have the energy to go again. I don't have the energy to go back again and continue to dig through. And the way I described it to Paul is there is money opportunities to be made at these shows, but it's like going to Goodwill. You never know what you're going to find that's going to be really profitable. Plus, you never can go to Goodwill and say, I'm looking for this. You just have to keep your eyes open for good deals, and you have to be a real shrewd business owner. And honestly, that's hard for a guy like Paul who only has 5 athletes, because then that skinnies the things that you can buy. And it's hard for me with a guy who doesn't have $60 billion to go and spend. I literally asked somebody what a card price was out of curiosity, and he said just about 50 to 100,000 shy of $1 million. So that's the kind of cards we were looking at. Not all that expensive, but most cards were 4 and 5 digits. And so that was my observation, which was kind of cool. Was kind of like more of what I wanted to see rather than the dollar boxes everywhere that I normally see here in Lexington. And then the bad was there were a lot of people, but that's to be expected. The ugly, I don't know how much of it I would deem as ugly. I think ugly was didn't have a whole lot of opportunities to make plays, but as I'm sure we'll talk about, sports card shows maybe are not the place where our audience is going to be making money. And I think we just had a further realization that although the shows are important for you and I to go to, especially from a networking standpoint, especially from a face-to-face contact between me and you, for us to like get in the same hotel room and dream a little bit about what the next couple of years looks like for this, I think that's invaluable. But for us to go to shows, it's actually small opportunities to make money unless you're doing stuff like the tops allocation and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I'd say that's a great general overview. I'm going to get into some more specifics and then we can talk through them. So for those of you that don't know, Fanatics Fest is the second year and it's aimed to be sort of this culmination of fans and collectors. And we fall into obviously the collectors category, even though we're flippers. We don't hold our cards. I'd say the only difference between people in the nooffseason.com fam like Lefty and I and like a true card collector is that we just don't hold our cards long term. We're still looking for things that are very collectible. We're still looking for cards that will go up in value, building portfolios of cards that will go up in value. But Lefty and I are more, and the content in this show and at nooffseason.com is more focused around 3 to 6 month flips, maybe 9 to 12 months maximum of holding a card before it goes up in value and we sell it, hopefully. Now I would say, so Fanatics Fest is aimed at bringing together the fan and the collector. And in the collector bucket, I think Michael Rubin, who for those of you who don't know, is the CEO of Fanatics. So this is his event. It's his baby, even though he's brought in tons of people to help him. And he doesn't run the event. He's got obviously like a whole team of people that run the event for him, but he's certainly involved. He has his hand in this. So we refer to Michael Rubin a lot. And what we mean there is basically everybody at Fanatics. Everybody at Fanatics has invested a lot into this event because they want to grow the hobby. They want to grow the hobby. And the reason they want to grow the hobby is because they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, in the licensing for not only all of the major sports teams' memorabilia and what's the word I'm thinking of? It's the gear, all the gear, the jerseys, the uniforms, the licensed gear that you can buy, but also the licensing for sports cards. So MLB, they already owned through Topps, and they will be taking over the licensing for the NBA and the NFL sometime in 2025 and 2026, the end of 2025 and into 2026 officially. So they want to grow the hobby because they have invested money in the hobby and they have cut the NBA, MLB, and NFL in as business partners in that as well. So this news happened back in like 2022 or 2023. So it's old news. It might have even been 2021 when this happened, to be honest. So it's old news, but it's upon us. And so this is the second year of Fanatics Fest. Last year, I'm going to bring up last year real quick because last year was in August of 2024. And it was a 4-day event last year. They had a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think last year they thought it was going to be, I think they thought the attendance numbers last year were going to be what the attendance numbers were this year. And I'll get to that in a second. Last year, it was completely empty on Friday. I showed up on Friday last year. It was like basically completely empty. It looked like half of your local card show in terms of vendor tables, but then it had amazing looking activations, like live event activations for the WWE, UFC, MLB, NBA, NFL, and beyond and beyond and beyond. You had New Era there. You had all kinds of other apparel companies doing really cool stuff. That had nothing to do with what they call the collector zone, which was essentially the card show within Fanatics Fest. They did have some cool things last year where they had some educational content around collecting. and different things like that. But there really wasn't much of a marriage between the fan zone and the collector zone. And I think it was due to lack of attendance last year, to be honest. Now, Saturday last year was a little bit more crowded than Friday was last year. And Sunday was kind of more like Friday. It kind of petered out. Because what you had on Saturday last year was that's when you had all of the families coming with little kids for the fan stuff. Now, there's also an element that we haven't talked about, which is, Lefty hit on some celebrity appearances. Most of the celebrity appearances last year, yes, they did have some celebrities walking through the crowd. You had people like Jake Paul and Tom Brady, which were, familiar with the sports card hobby, and they actually went up to some tables last year and bought cards, which basically made everybody poop their pants. But last year, they also had these panels. So they had panel discussions with, I believe Adam Silver was there, commissioner of the NBA. You had pro athletes, recognizable pro athletes be on these panels. This year, they had all of what I just said, so I'm not going to repeat myself. They had all of what I just said, and they added a bunch of other stuff, some interesting fan components and a lot of interesting collector components. And as a result, you could tell that they had taken their time to market this event, to sell out Saturday, and to make Friday basically what Saturday last year was. So Friday was freaking packed. There was no event on Thursday. Thursday, you could basically pick up your tickets and all that stuff from Will Call. Friday, it was packed. Saturday, it was packed. They had the exclusive drops that they had last year, which I made money on. Lefty and I made some money on those this year, so that was good. But this year they added things like a athletic competition where they had like amateurs competing against pros for $1 million first prize, which Tom Brady won, which was weird. And then but the second place guy was an amateur who won a car. And then the third place guy was an amateur who won essentially a LeBron James card that he sold to Tom Brady for $250,000. So stuff like this, and I think all of you probably know this already, but I'll say it to be Captain Obvious. None of that stuff happens at your local card show or even at the National, which is the biggest card show. So the reason I say all that is because it's like, what is Fanatics Fest trying to be? Is Fanatics Fest trying to be the National and then some? Or is Fanatics Fest trying to be its own thing and cross over people over into the hobby and also be like a badass card show? Is it trying to complement the National or is it trying to beat out the National? I don't know that really matters, but what I will say is that I think that leads into what Lefty was alluding to. Lefty was alluding to one thing that he and I were kind of pissed off about. I'm not going to lie. Higher card prices. It seemed like every single vendor table that we walked up to had all of their prices listed at about 30% above comps, at least. And so what that does is, not that you can't negotiate, but think about that. Think about if they have it listed at 5 to 10% over comps, which is typically what happens at, say, the Dallas Card Show, Culture Collision, the Nash National, the Midwest Monster, all these other card shows across the country. Your local card shows, typically vendors will list it at 5 to 10% over comps. Why? Because they know that everybody there is going to get out their phone, comp the card, and try to get it at 5 to 10% below comps, right? Well, at Fanatics Fest, it was a situation where I felt like I couldn't even really negotiate because everything was sticker priced over comps, or even if there wasn't a sticker on it, you would ask somebody, and to Lefty's point, they'd kind of chuckle in your face and go, that's a $250,000 card, or that's a $21,000 card, or whatever. So, the average Joes like Lefty and I, the average flippers that are grinding out there, we're trying to find $50 to $500, maybe $1,000 cards that we can make money on. And this was very, very hard to do at this show. There were more vendors this year. It was more like the National in terms of the collector zone. I'd say the collector zone was 3 to 4 times what it was last year in terms of just vendor tables, full tables, crowd number. I mean, this was a show that Lefty alluded to this. I was worn out after day one. I was worn out after Friday. And it wasn't that I couldn't find things to do. It was like, I couldn't move on Saturday.
Yeah.
Friday, there was a Cane's line, and Lefty and I were joking because you could walk through the chicken finger line and get a free chicken finger each time you walk through the line. And on Friday, Lefty and I how many times did we go through the line? 3?
2 or 3, maybe.
2 or 3. And Lefty and I were like, we could probably go through this line 5 more times and have saved maybe $100 on food at that point.
Yeah.
Saturday, you couldn't get through the line once, brother. And I know you
Really?
weren't there on Saturday. You couldn't get, it was ridiculous on Saturday.
I actually think I might have done the best strategy for Fanatics Fest.
In hindsight, you didn't miss out on anything Saturday except for the F1 and Topps Series 2 drops that were Fanatics Fest exclusive. But I texted you, I mean, I did well on those, but I only made $90 profit per box. So is that worth staying, a whole other day? Maybe. But that was literally the only thing. I mean, I did get a couple good deals on Saturday, which we'll talk about in one good deal on Saturday, let me talk about that real quick. So, cause that goes with what I have just said. What Saturday was like, for those of you who are wondering where I'm going with all of this, is I think the vendors were told by someone within the Fanatics event staff that they were to price cards higher. They were to be prepared to educate newbies on the hobby, people coming over from the fan zone into the collector zone, to be patient with them and explain to them things about the hobby so that they would potentially spend more money. And I think prices were fixed. I think prices across dealer tables were fixed. I think vendors were not allowed to price things at comps or sell things under comps. And I think they all came together and agreed to that. And I think there's going to be an impact of that. But before I talk about that, here's why I think that this happened. Because the deal that I got a good deal I'm very excited about it. One good deal really in this whole event, to be honest with you, for me, other than 2 Shohei Ohtani BGS raw card review 9.5s that Lefty pointed out to me that was a good deal. So that was Lefty's good deal for me. But the only good deal that I got was on a Victor Wembanyama Topps Chrome certified auto, which looks sick, in a PSA 10. And the only reason I think I got a good deal on it is because I took the time to ask the vendor, do you have a comp on this? The reason I had to do that is because the frickin' internet, my 5G, my LTE did not work. And the Fanatics Fest internet itself, the Fanatics Fest Wi-Fi, did not load at all on Saturday. I don't know if it was because it was too crowded, but it is pointless to be at a card show with no internet and no data, because you have to look up comps. You do not make a deal without looking up comps on every single card. And because I couldn't do that, I left at like 2 p.m. on Friday, but I digress, or on Saturday, sorry, but I digress. I got a good deal because as I was asking the vendor for a comp on this Victor Wembanyama card, he was talking to a dad, a very nice dad, a dad and a mom of 2 little kids. And this is what you see at Fanatics Fest that you don't see at other card shows. A dad and the kids that know nothing about cards. So the dad is talking to the vendor's doing a great job educating him. And the dad's like, oh, you want that Caitlin Clark rookie? Oh, you want that Paolo Banchero rookie? Sure, $70 sounds good. Sure, $80 sounds good. And they were spending that money. And I venture to guess that that's what happened across most vendor tables, is that this is what we thought would happen last year. It didn't happen last year. It happened this year. Card prices went up. People who know nothing about comping cards paid for them. And then someone like me who asked the vendor about it got a card for about $200 or $300 under comps because I asked the vendor about it. And because I asked the vendor about it, he knew who the type of person I was, and he knew I wasn't going to sit there and just pay whatever for it. So is Fanatics Fest an event where everybody can get what they want? Maybe. will card prices go up now as a result of this Fanatics Fest event having jacked up card prices? Maybe, because now you have a situation where you have tens of thousands of people who are at this event that just overpaid for a lot of cards. So now are you in a situation where people will continue to overpay for cards or will hold cards like they did back in 2020 and 2021 when they overpaid for cards? I'm not saying it's going to be like 2021. I really don't think it's going to be. I think this is one massive card show where there will be a little bit of that. But there's more people now that are listening to this show that need to get educated on, did you overpay for cards at Fanatics Fest? How do we need to educate people more? You need to listen, learn, and earn. You need to take sports card school. You need to get with all of our tools at nooffseason.com so that you don't just blindly go to card shows now and overpay for cards. So we've got the National coming up in a month. I don't expect to see a difference at the National because of Fanatics Fest, but in a bubble, Fanatics Fest sure was different. That's for sure. So I think that the good, the bad, the ugly for me is that the ugly is that there was no internet on Saturday. So I had to leave early. I would have stayed and I would have kept looking for deals if I could have looked up frickin' comps. The bad, I don't think there really is bad. I think the good is that in addition to everything Lefty said, I was still able to make money on my in-show flips with the Fanatics Fest exclusive wax. I think one thing I'm going to do differently next year is I'm going to try to get a media pass instead of paying for the VIP ticket, because our guy Clark Kim from Cards to the Moon got a media pass for the second year in a row, and he got the Cactus Jack box. I don't know how he did that, but I'm going to try to do that next year.
Yeah, I think there was some really cool stuff that was awesome, and some really cool stuff that deal-wise was good. I mean, I don't know if you are wanting to move on from this, but I think it's valuable to say I am selling literally everything that the VIP bag came with.
Yeah, talk about it, Lefty.
Even the bag. I even sold the bag. So when the first year the VIP ticket came with early access, but there wasn't a whole lot of swag bag. Like, Paul was generally underwhelmed for that.
Yep.
We decided to go back out, extend trust to Fanatics, because a lot of times they do put some pretty awesome stuff out there. And we said, we're going to buy the VIP pass again for the access to the things like the Cactus Jacks opportunities and things like that, which we didn't need them, like you just said. But, we thought that there would be some good buying opportunities with the VIP bag. So the VIP bag itself was a tote bag that was Mitchell & Ness branded, a hat that was Mitchell & Ness branded, a Fanatics branded licensed shirt that says Fanatics Fest in New York colors, and then a pin that was licensed, and a ball that was licensed, and then a hobby box of Series 1, not Fanatics Fest exclusive Series 1, but a Series 1 box or Series 2 box of a hobby box. I literally am selling all of that. As soon as we got home from getting our VIP bags, I took a picture of every single thing on the bed, even the bag itself, with tags, and sold it all. And I've been keeping pretty detailed notes down to even the free chicken tenders.
Yeah, can you please go through your entire P&L sheet?
I can.
This is how we roll, everybody, if you're new to the show.
My VIP pass, $570.80, because I did not buy it early, because I was not sure that I was going to go to Fanatics Fest until later in the year. So I paid a little bit more than Paul paid for his. So $570. The Cactus Jack box itself, I got for $544.38. So that puts me a little over $1,000. My flight to New York, $398. My bus ticket to and from the airport, $25. My Gary V pack that I bought, which I will talk about in a second, was $20. I bought one card the entire time, and it was a Jalen Williams autograph, optic signatures. So I bought that for $70, and 2 blasters of Topps Series 2 Fanatics Fest exclusive wax, which were $50 a piece, so it's $100. So I was a little over $1,800 all in. I think I ended up being a little over 1,500 all in. The VIP sales alone, as of right now, I have sold the hat, I have sold the ball, and I have sold the pin and the bag. The auctions for the shirt and the hobby box are already out. I am already $80.63 of profit on that. Specifically, I know many of you are wondering how much did they sell for. Let me pull that up really quick. The bag sold for $19.99. The pin sold for $5.75. The ball sold for $20.50, which was pretty wild. And then coming in at the highest sales so far as the Fanatics Fest dad hat, Mitchell and Ness gray nasty.
I think it's the grossest hat I've ever seen in my
It's
life.
disgusting.
It's horrible.
But somebody paid me $34.39 for it. So
that's amazing.
I was never going to wear it. Was never going to care about the baseball. Was never going to care about the pin. I might have had Katie use the Fanatics Fest tote bag, but regardless, the only thing I would have really used was the wax that I'm selling, and then the shirt, which I was like, okay, I don't need another shirt. And we got pretty cool Texas Roadshow shirts as well that I think you're wearing one of them. So
I am.
I'd rather have that anyway. I'd rather support that brand. So all in, I'm already $80 of profit there. I also sold the Cactus Jacks box that I paid $544 for $1,100, and maybe, I'm serious, maybe 30 seconds after they handed it to me. They handed me the bag. They said, congratulations and thank you for your business. I walk out. I was not even off the Topps carpet yet, which is turf, like grass turf. And the guy said, are you selling? I said, yes. He goes, what's your offer? I said, $1,200. He goes, 11. And I said, deal. And he handed me cash. That's how it went. It was amazing. It's the fastest $500 I've ever made in my life. And then food and drink, I put minus $13 because I evaluated our chicken tenders and little shots of sweet tea at $13. And our free energy drinks that we got that were pretty good.
They were really good.
And then I also ended up selling. This was, I don't even know if I can officially legally say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I sold my VIP badge for the days that I was not going to be able to be there. So
amazing.
I made an extra $100 off of that as well. And that counts to, I'm still $439 indebted to the event, to the whole event, travel and everything. But I still have the shirt to sell. I still have the blasters to sell, and I still have the hobby box to sell. And by the way, I also have some Gary V autos and some other things that I plan to sell and market as well. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to come out net positive on this thing.
I think you are too. And I love the canes and the energy drink counting against the, counting against the spend there. That's phenomenal. Good work. Yeah. So I did similar stuff to Lefty. I won't repeat anything that he said other than the fact that my Cactus Jack box sold for $12.50 within about 30 seconds as well. Slightly, I think because the morning, and this is a couple takeaways. The reason I bring this up is because I got a few takeaways for everybody. Number one, if you go to Fanatics Fest next year, and they have this web platform called EQL, and EQL is how you sign up to enter the drawing for the ability to win the ability to buy these exclusive drops that Lefty and I are talking about. There were 3 of them from Topps, event exclusive. The Cactus Jack box was in year 2. I did a 10 a.m. pickup time on Friday. Because the 10 a.m. pickup time on Friday, mine sold for $12.50 because Dave and Adams were selling it for $1,200. Somebody intercepted me and said, I'll give you $12.50. Done. That was easy. Lefty had a 1 or a 2 p.m. pickup time, and by 2 p.m. the price had dropped to $1,100. That's fine. He still made profit on it. But that's a takeaway. If you enter the EQL drawing, and apparently anyone with a ticket or badge of any kind could have entered the EQL drawing. I got all 3 of the exclusive products with the VIP badge. The F1 box I sold for $425 after paying $366, and same thing with the MLB Topps Series 2 box as well, hobby box as well. Only held all 3 products for a total of about 30 seconds, made cash there. So my total profit just from those 3 drops was just under $1,000. 180 total for the non-Cactus Jack stuff, and then $750 total for the Cactus Jack in terms of profit. So I didn't do a whole P&L sheet with everything like the canes and everything like that, like Lefty did, because I knew he was doing that for today's show. A couple other real quick takeaways from Fanatics Fest before we likely move on real quick to the National coming up. I think, so I mentioned earlier that like this will affect card prices, at least for a little while in some cases, because the prices were higher at Fanatics Fest. Number one takeaway is that, and I think this is going to hold true for the National, eBay is a phenomenal place to buy if you're at or even not at these events. Lefty mentioned he bought 1 card. I bought a total of 4 cards. So think about that. For a 3-day event that I paid to go to, I bought 4 cards. Okay, that's nothing, right? Between Lefty and I, who are like, I mean, we do that. Like, this is what we've done forever. We love to buy cards. We're disciplined enough not to overpay. We bought 5 total cards. Now, Lefty, I bought more when we were in the hotel room on eBay. I bought more than 5 cards total on eBay.
Yeah. We were moving cards on eBay the entire time we were there. I bought more cards on eBay this weekend than I did at the show.
Same.
Because,
honestly, and I got great deals on eBay too, I feel like.
Yeah, I was only able to find 2 cards that I was interested in. And 1 I was going to have to significantly overpay for, and probably would have made the purchase had I not had Cooper Flag coming up later this week. I found some Arch Manning out of 250 PSA 10s prisms that I was like really interested in. And then I also found a PSA 9 of the NBA or WNBA logo prism that we've been trying to
love
buy.
that. The Caitlin Clark logo card. What a great play.
Yeah.
So 2 other things. 1, breaking is big time pumped at this event. There's like, I mean, the National does it too, with like a Breakers Pavilion and all that. And Whatnot has been like a huge sponsor of the National, and so they want everybody breaking and all that stuff. But Fanatics Live obviously is a competitor to Whatnot, and Fanatics Live, I believe, sort of was pulling the strings related to the vendors. And not only that, but Fanatics, like the Breakers, not pavilion, but like the Breakers area within the collector zone was pretty massive. I avoided it like the plague because I'm anti-breaking. But I mean, breaking continues to be something that Fanatics is pushing down our throats. And I just want everybody to kind of be aware of that. Now, our friend of the show, Ziggy, has said to me multiple times that he has a way for pick your team breaks to put together kind of a mathematical formula like our rankings at nooffseason.com. So maybe TBD on that for the future. Maybe nooffseason.com, puts together some kind of PYT breaking formula that we feel like can work. But until that day comes, I would avoid breaks like the plague, because you're just throwing money down the toilet. Our sports card rankings are the best place to go to buy singles, to make money flipping sports cards. The last thing I'll say about Fanatics Fest, kind of versus the National, if you will, and thanks to Derek Hagan for this comment in the live chat. Derek Hagan says it was cool watching the owner of the Commanders pay $500,000 for the Jaden Daniels Prism 1 of 1 while standing next to Jaden Daniels. And I think this is one of too many moments to count at Fanatics Fest where this validates the hobby that we're all in to people. Now, I think what's unique about you and I, Lefty, and a lot of other people that we know, like, I mean, tons of people that we know don't need this validation, but I think a lot of people do need the validation. And I think at one point in time I did, when I was re-entering the hobby, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I'm thinking, okay, I'm putting my money into these cards. I'm putting my money into this business, building this brand and this business, and and I've got cards at PSA, which takes a long time to get back. So there's money held up in the hobby for all of us. If you're listening right now, you have money held up in the hobby, and maybe $50 is a lot, but maybe $50 isn't a lot, and maybe you have $50,000 held up in the hobby. If you're listening to this show, you have between $50,000 and $50,000 held up in this hobby. You want some kind of validation that this thing isn't going to crash, right? Well, when you see the owner of the Washington Commanders buy a sports card for $500,000 at an event, and that's one of like 50 other things that happen just like that at the same event, I think that's what Fanatics Fest does that the National doesn't necessarily do. The National has always charged people for autographs from their favorite athletes. So it's not like they haven't had an athlete presence there. But when you have Roger Goodell, Lefty, like I'm eating my hot dog after my free Canes because I was still hungry. And I turned around and I'm watching Gronk and talk to Robert Kraft and Roger Goodell. Like that's who's at this event, billionaires.
Yeah.
So like the National doesn't have that.
I saw several.
Fanatics Fest does. Yeah.
A-Rod saw him. Brady saw him. Gary V, Robert Kraft, Jake Paul. I would put all those guys in the billion conversation, I think, because of the brands that they own and partner with. So, and that's just a little bit of what we had. I mean, CJ Stroud literally walked right by Paul and I, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, there's CJ Stroud!" And then they ran after him, and then finally, literally, I was like, "Finally, we can breathe at this card table, and we can look at the rest of the cards," because everybody followed CJ Stroud, and me and Paul were like left in the dust of a whole card table, finally being able to be accessed instead of 15 people around it.
That's right. And this is my guy, Carrie. Carrie is a guy that I met. He's Awesome Plays. So thanks for tuning in, Awesome Plays. Awesome Plays says, I was able to show Wemby my cards.
That's cool.
That's pretty sick. And then he was able to take pictures with Russell Wilson, and I think his wife met Sierra as well, who's Russell Wilson's wife. So that's pretty sweet. And so thanks, Carrie, for all your support. We appreciate you, man. It was great. It was great talking to you. Carrie and I were talking at one of the tables on Saturday morning during the VIP hour before that was the other thing, Lefty. My best part of my day Saturday was the VIP hour before the general public was let in. Because when the general public was let in, I just wanted to leave. It was too much for me.
Yeah, I think the VIP hour at the National too is one of the best times.
Yeah, and great segue to the National. A couple of things here. Don't forget that 10 of you will be able to meet us at the National if you're planning on attending. We're going to have a meet and greet. And you can use your member points at the member store at nooffseason.com to redeem for the meet and greet. Lefty and I are still trying to figure out what we're going to do for the meet and greet, but it's going to be fun. Now, another thing about the National, because the National is only about a month away. This is from Joey at eBay via some PR agency. So we talk about search phrases that are generating the most, the most searches or the most increase in searches. And the reason we talk about that typically is because Lefty and I, we've done this show together for about 5 years, and we've always talked about selling markers. So selling markers that we like the best typically aren't revolving around player performance. They're revolving around things that we know are going to happen on the calendar. So we know the drafts of the leagues are going to happen. We know that the starts of the seasons are going to happen. We know that the All-Star breaks are going to happen. We're talking about events that are on the calendar. The NBA Cup, the Emirates Cup in the NBA, one of Lefty's favorite things now in the world. The Commissioner's Cup in the WNBA, one of Lefty's real favorite things. All these different things. But then there are selling markers.
Fever, baby.
That's right. Then there's selling markers that are based around player performance. So we like to talk about being right, obviously, in numbers of searches going up during selling markers. But also, we're not always right, and we're still learning. We're still listening, learning, and earning ourselves to a lot of things. And so Joey and some other data that comes from our research and from Joey's research, we like to talk about on the show. So Pete Crow Armstrong's searches, searches for Pete Crow Armstrong increased nearly 200% in May compared to April. The same month when the 2025 Bowman baseball set was released, searches for the set increased over 1,900% on eBay compared to April. So we talk about performance spikes, and we talked about PCA being a good guy to sell, and that's like evidence right there from eBay. And then we talk about not buying into new releases. And I think that's evidence right there to not buy into new releases, because you have 2025 Bowman baseball, 1,900% increase. And you don't want to compete against that increase. You know, you want to buy when not as many people are searching for specific cards. Tyrese Halliburton, who unfortunately looks like he suffered a serious injury last night, but during his run, we talk about, so who is going to do this next year? We've seen Anthony Edwards do it. I think Anthony Edwards could do it next year. I've talked about Victor Wembanyama being a big guy that I think will do it next year. In May 2025, Halliburton leading the Pacers to their first NBA Finals since 2000. Searches for Tyrese Halliburton cards increased more than 300% compared to the month prior. What's cool about that, Lefty, is related to the NBA. I don't think we necessarily need to buy into NBA player cards as early as we have in the past, because if it's up 300% compared to the prior month, which was April, can we not wait till April where we have more of a sample size of data and performance to analyze to say who could make a playoff run? So basically what I'm saying is, like, why do we need to buy into guys in December that could make a playoff run? Even though their prices might be down, should we just wait till April? I don't know. That's something maybe we can talk more about.
Yeah, I think we'll have to look at it again in the future, because I think also it was relevant that two small market teams were in the Commissioner's Cup. You had the Bucks and the Thunder in the Commissioner Cup. The year before that, you had the Pacers and the Lakers cards popped quite a bit during that cup. And so I think this next year we could have some pretty big market teams be producers. You know, like Luka is going to do a lot in LA this year. I think that'll change things. And then Dallas being a pretty big market with Cooper Flag. I think that changes a little bit. But I do think, yes, ultimately, I think basketball is not going to be as hard to buy into as we previously thought it was going to be.
And then in F1, the number of F1 items sold on eBay increased more than 400% compared to 2019 when Drive to Survive was first released. Yeah, that's pretty big. The top 5 most searched F1 drivers so far in 2025 are Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Ayrton Senna, who's like he's a OG. He's a legend. He's a vintage. For those of you who don't know that name, he's vintage, which maybe we could talk about that real quick. But lastly, our guy, Oscar Piastri. We love Oscar Piastri. So you see these F1, those 5 F1 drivers are the top searched drivers so far in 2025. The reason I think it's interesting about Senna is because I do know that there's this philosophy that when you have a newer niche market within sports cards, people, I think smart people, but I think smart people that have patience and high risk tolerance will buy into the older cards within the genre where the newer ultra modern cards are popping. And that was F1. So F1 has been like super hot since 2020. It's definitely suffered some dips since then, but it looks like it's coming back. But there have been people that were kind of telling me all along, hey, go buy the vintage F1 stuff along the way, because eventually that will pop. And now we see Ayrton Senna's name, within the top 5 F1 drivers searched for, which is amazing. So we have Top 5 most searched athletes in eBay's global collectibles category during May 2025. You're going to hear 2 names that I'm buying into. Michael Jordan, Jaden Daniels, and Caitlin Clark. So obviously Michael Jordan and Caitlin Clark are joined by 2 other guys. One of them we're going to talk about later too, JJ McCarthy and Caleb Williams. So the top 5 most searched athletes on eBay in May 2025, Michael Jordan, Jaden Daniels, Caitlin Clark, JJ McCarthy, Caleb Williams. 3 2024 rookie quarterbacks along with Michael Jordan and Caitlin Clark. And then there's a bunch of data about Pokemon cards at sports card shows reflecting the crossover of fandom and interest across generations. The most searched Pokemon on eBay globally in 2024, Charizard, Pikachu, Mew, Gengar, Mewtwo, Blastoise, Onix, Eevee, Dragonite, and Venusaur. Charizard and Pikachu take the top spots. So this is all interesting.
How many of those
leading
do you know
up.
who they are?
Only well, I've actually familiar with.
You said them all right.
More names than I think. So
that's what I was surprised about. I was surprised about you coming in here, and I was like, "Is he going to actually read these?" Because I don't think he's going to get half of them pronunciation right.
Well, my thank you. My sister collected Pikachu growing up, and I made fun of her relentlessly for it. And now she's able to dip into her Pokemon fund that I don't have, and I remember Blastoise from that. Like, I remember that. And Venusaur. And I think I made fun of Venusaur's name, calling it Penasaur on an episode of the Sports Card Strategy Show. So that's probably how I was able to nail these. But obviously Charizard and Pikachu, I know those. But
let me ask, do you know anything about Gengar? You know anything about that Gengar?
No, I don't know Mew, Gengar, Mewtwo, Onix, Eevee, or Dragonite. I had never heard those names before. I just read them off.
All right, let me ask you a quick question then. You've seen the name Gengar, okay? Don't Google anything. Don't look up anything. What do you think he looks like, and what are his attacks? I just would love to know quickly, what do you think Gengar looks like off the dome?
What are his attacks? Gengar looks like Genghis Khan, and his attacks are spitting in your face, diarrheaing down his leg so that it smells bad, and picking his nose.
Well, all right. Not close at all. But that's what I wanted. I just wanted to see where you were going to go with that. And before we move on any further,
I know nothing.
There he is.
Nothing about Pokemon. Nothing.
Every Gengar
Zero.
card ranked by how easy it was to draw is the article I just pulled up with a picture of Gengar. So there you go, everyone.
I'm fully aware that I'm missing a lot of opportunities in the Pokemon realm, but I only know about a few things, and I try to stick to those few things so that I can be useful in the world.
Hey,
if I start spreading myself too thin, I'd be useless.
I would appreciate it if you don't get into Pokemon, because I think that would be a hard turn for me to make content for.
Yeah, I don't know that that's ever going to happen. So thanks again to Joey. The reason why, that data I think is super relevant for a lot of reasons, but I also think, the way that Joey framed it was kind of cool. He said, this is what collectors are searching for leading up to the National. So the National, for those of you who don't know, has a huge impact on the entire hobby. It has a huge impact on how cards move across the hobby. I think, I hope there are more deals to be found at the National than there were at Fanatics Fest, but I'm fully okay with just buying on eBay from the National. Looking at things at the National, and if I can't get a good deal on them, because maybe people are still buying a lot of the stuff that Joey says that people are searching for. Maybe that crosses over into the National, and so prices are high on those people. And that's fine.
Yeah,
I'll go buy elsewhere.
I'm really looking forward to the time at the National where we get back to the hotel and we're talking shop, and me and you are just massively bidding on cards on eBay. That is what is so fun.
That's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. A lot
Can
of
I
us
throw something out here? I know we've brought this up a lot.
Yeah.
We talked about Shea winning the finals MVP would be what vaults his card price for the Silver Prism. He, as of yesterday, or as of today, has finally reached $13,000 or $1,300. Today, won best offer $1,500, sold for $1,300, which is less than Luka's card was at the time when we talked about it. So even winning finals MVP has not vaulted his prices at all.
Yeah, I mean, so that tells us that he's just been high for several years. I mean, he's just, for at least a couple of years, he's been the guy that everyone, his market has been strong. And I think because of that, we haven't seen the spike. And I mean, it is pretty shocking though, because we've had Giannis's cards went up when he won finals MVP. You know, we've just seen it over and over again. LeBron's cards went up huge in 2020. We've seen, you know, even Jason Tatum had some cards go up when he, you know, when the Celtics won the championship. And even though Jaylen Brown's cards went up huge when he won finals MVP. There just have been, it's been the spike that we can all count on from the finals MVP. We've referenced, well, that person would have to win finals MVP for his cards to go up. And that we thought maybe that would be Shea. And, you know, it's very, very interesting that.
So Shea has entered Pat Mahomes era of investing, in my opinion.
Which means that, you know, there could be a nice buying window for Shea when August rolls around or when December rolls around. If you're patient and you're like, because Pat Mahomes is a safe investment. You're not going to always make money on a Pat Mahomes card within 3 to 12 months. You're just not. But long term, I think you're going to be happy if you're patient and you want to hold that long term. And you're right, Shea could be in that category now. So congrats to Shea's Prism Silver for finally getting up to where we thought it should have been a couple months ago easily. And we thought it probably would have doubled from there if he won finals MVP, but we were wrong about that. So I'm glad you brought that up because we definitely needed to have some follow-up on that the day after the NBA finals. Speaking of someone who's like dying to get back to the NBA finals, Kevin Durant was traded. I'm going to try to like leave my commentary about the trade aside. I think it's a horrible trade. I would never trade for Kevin Durant. Like I wouldn't give a bag of chips for Kevin Durant for a lot of reasons. But I don't think it was a horrible trade for the Rockets. They didn't really give up that much. Jalen Green, I don't think ever was going to be anything other than just kind of like a flashy scorer. And Dylan Brooks, I don't really like that much. And they gave up the 10th overall pick, which you have to pick well, right? You like now Phoenix has the pressure of making the right pick. It is a deep draft. I don't.
But can you get a guy better than Durant with the 10th pick?
I don't think you can get anything better than Durant I don't think they're going to get anything close to Durant with what they gave up. So I don't like it for Phoenix. I don't love it for Houston though either, because like, I just don't like Kevin Durant, like
he's 37,
Brooklyn, and then Phoenix and like, I mean, and before Golden State, you know, he was in OKC. So like, he's just been around and he always wants to move to the next best thing. And I think this is just a case of Kevin Durant, James Harden syndrome, where it's like they just want to keep moving to the next best thing, and then it never materializes. Kevin Durant could be the Aaron Rodgers of the NBA.
Okay, now I'm in. Let's go on that conversation.
You like that?
Yes. Easily my most hated NBA player, Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant, I think,
never,
you know, if you own Kevin Durant cards, you should sell them now.
Yeah.
I mean, go to our card analyzer and predictor tool, search for the card that you have, chart it, see where it's selling from where you bought it, what you're into it for, and think now is a great time to move Kevin Durant cards. I think what you'll see, as much as the reason I don't like the trade for Houston is because you had an up and coming team that was building something. They were ready to take the next step. I don't like to see someone like Kevin Durant, an older superstar. I don't like to see them invade a young up and coming team because I don't think they're going to make the next step. I don't think they're going to take the next step with Kevin Durant. I really don't. I think he sucks a lot of shots off of that team. He now they're going to have to worry about getting him the ball. And, they were good already. So I don't know why they did that.
I think they should have stayed the course personally. I'm just glad that it wasn't him coming to OKC. There was a lot of chatter about a reunion in OKC because he technically fits a shooting forward spot for us. But I was just like, no, dude, we have in fantastic culture. Don't come back. We don't want you. And now he's in Houston where we can just watch him destroy another franchise.
Yeah, it's too bad. As a Pistons fan, I was always saying, to your point about not wanting him in OKC, as a Pistons fan, they're like, well, what if we got LeBron? And I'm like, I don't want LeBron for the same reasons that I wouldn't want Kevin Durant if it were my team. Props to Andrew McDade, who says, how about the ridiculous Tops Now card of him at Fanatics Fest learning he was traded? I totally agree. I think that's the dumb, there's so much dumb stuff in the hobby that other people like, and that's fine. But this is an example of dumb stuff that other people might like. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. I think it's another money grab by Topps. I definitely wouldn't go anywhere near this card if you're thinking about it, because we talk a lot about Topps Now and Panini Instant. This is not one that will do anything. What's interesting, Derek Hagan says Reed Shepherd will play more now. I think there could be some Reed Shepherd plays, but I will tell you this. I did a little bit of research preparing for today's show. We are going to add Amen Thompson's 2023 Prism Silver to our raw to grade sports card rankings, and I think it's going to come out as a card that's going to sit atop the rankings. Raw, that card sells for $30. In PSA 10, it sells for $225. In PSA 9, it sells for $45, and it has a 47% gem rate. So Amen Thompson's 2023 Prism Silver raw to grade, something like that could potentially be there for Reed Shepherd. The only reason I would say no to Reed Shepherd right now from a card standpoint and yes to Amen Thompson is the market has been settled on Amen Thompson's cards. Reed Shepherd still is in the situation where he has more and more cards coming out as the 2024 rookie. And he also isn't he is going to have to play well for his cards to go back up. Amen Thompson has already kind of established as a guy that everybody likes and that the hobby likes, as seen by those card prices. So go to nooffseason.com, use our rankings calculator, check back in our rankings later this week to see where that Amen Thompson card goes in the ROI percentage. And Derek Hagan agrees with me, says Amen will be a huge play. We've got premium members submitting his Prism Silver to me for grading pretty readily. And if you're confused by grading your cards with PSA, you can grade with us at nooffseason.com. Send us your cards. We do the hard part and save you money. In light of PSA now taking 65 days or more for the bulk value submissions, and many of you wanting to make plays on the upcoming NBA draft cards we're going to see the print-on-demand cards later this week. NoOffSeason.com is now offering CGC, SGC, and Beckett. In addition to PSA, when you grade with us, just select grading company on the form, and we do the rest. We also track your gem rate for you, Lefty. How's your gem rate been lately?
It's not bad, but it could be a lot better.
Same here,
PSA is
brother.
doing crazy things, so same as you.
Yep. It's all part of the grind. You just got to keep doing it. You just got to keep searching for the cards and grading them when you think they're gradable. And if they get a 7, 8, or even 9 sometimes if it's a bigger card, you just got to crack it out and sell it raw. True. More on that in future episodes. It's been a successful strategy for me this year. Lefty, it's time to discuss some cards that stand out to us in our sports card rankings at nooffseason.com. I pulled out a few that we can discuss, and then we'll get into the gauntlet because I've gauntleted some of them for us, you and I, to pick through. But I'm going to tee you up here, and
Okay.
I think you're going to nail this answer. You might even know why I've chosen these two players. When we were at Fanatics Fest, I remember looking at a lot of this player's cards, and I said out loud to you, and the vendor overheard me. I said, you know what? If I weren't only buying 5 players' cards this year, I would be buying a lot of this guy. You remember who I said?
JJ McCarthy.
JJ McCarthy. I think.
I actually remember what he said as well.
Yeah, what did he say?
He said, I can't imagine a quarterback in a better position to succeed.
That's right. And I felt validated by that because I could kind of tell this guy knew what he was doing just based on like the business he was running there right in front of us. And the three of us just kind of bonded over that moment. It was like, yep, that's a play.
We did like the metaphorical bro clap. Like we were just like,
yeah, it was like it was a non-existent clap between
we were just like
our minds. Yeah, we did. It was a moment. And then he said that he'd been buying a lot of a particular player. Do you remember who that was? Did you hear him say?
I don't remember.
You might have walked away. You might have clapped and then walked away.
Yeah, I might have been like, love that. Looking for Caitlin Clark, WNBA.
No, so he's said that he's buying a lot of Trevor Lawrence.
Ooh.
Now, I don't know if I agree with that one,
the bro clap might have come back. Or at least I would have asked, is that supremely because of Travis Hunter? Because if it is, I understand it a little bit. But if he's still believing in Trevor Lawrence, I might be out on that specifically.
I
think
that's what he was alluding to. I think that's what he was alluding to because we were talking about situations improving and like newer draft picks and stuff like that. But Card Society says people buy T-Law every year and every year they lose money. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Card Society on that. I'm going to say don't buy T-Law.
I would rather have Jordan Love.
Oh, I would too. But
Because
there is one
he also has
T-Law
a
card. I still like Jordan Love. I would highly encourage everybody to go to our sports card rankings. Trevor Lawrence 2021 Don Russ Downtown is actually a raw to grade play right now. So if you're sitting there going, well, I disagree with Paul and Lefty on Trevor Lawrence, I would highly encourage you to look at the sports card rankings right now. It's the 5th best card to make ROI on. Trevor Lawrence 2021 Don Russ Downtown raw to grade. $204 buy-in, $625 in a PSA 9, $1,100 in a PSA 10. Projected average sale price conservatively would be $750. So 77% ROI. So whether you like a player or not,
that's pretty awesome, actually.
You know, that's math that will work for you. Now, JJ McCarthy, we just added a bunch of his cards to the rankings. His 2024 Optic Green Hyper, 92% ROI. His 2024 Optic Purple Shock, 91% ROI. We just added Jaden Daniels 2024 Optic Hollow, 66% ROI on that one. A lot of great cards in the nooffseason.com sports card rankings. I'm trying to find what's the top Jordan Love card since you mentioned him. Let me see what that would be. So the top Jordan Love card is his 2020 Optic Hollow Raw to Grade, 11% ROI, and his 2020 Prism Silver, 11% ROI, Raw to Grade. So, and don't get fooled by the 11% ROI. I mean, if those were to get PSA 10s, it's way higher than 11%. 11% is very conservative based on the other grades you might get in a bulk play. So,
love it.
A lot of other cards too. You know, if you're into the 2024 rookies, we've added a bunch of new cards to the rankings. Go check where JJ's Absolute Kaboom vertical ranks in there. Go check where Bo Nix 2024 Don Russ Downtown, Caleb Williams 2024 Donruss Downtown, same card for Drake May and for Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix, along with Michael Penix 2024 Absolute Kaboom Horizontal. So if you're buying into the 2024 rookie quarterbacks, there are plenty of cards from them that we have added to our raw to grade formula, and I would highly, highly recommend that you buy from that list and don't just go buy based on, I think Michael Penix is going to have a great year. I'm going to go buy whatever card,
Yeah. Which we actually had somebody talk about last Monday.
Yes.
So it's like last Monday on their show, somebody said, like, what about Michael Penix? We love the opportunity, but just buy the right kind of card. Like play the numbers, don't play the emotions.
Lefty, now to the gauntlet.
Which is all about emotions. No.
No, you're the best at, synthesizing the information given and making a nice educated choice. So we're going to make you do that right now.
Okay.
Since I've talked way too much in this episode, I'm going to let you make all the picks in the gauntlet. You're going to pick the winner.
All right.
Trevor Lawrence,
so.
This is a raw to grade gauntlet. So you're doing a raw to grade play for all of these.
Ooh, okay.
Trevor Lawrence 2021 Donruss Downtown, the card that I just said.
Yeah, I just looked at the numbers on that. Pretty appealing.
Versus JJ McCarthy 2024 Panini Absolute Kaboom Vertical.
The buy-in price for raw is like 24 on that. 2,400
for the JJ. Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
So I can get 10 Trevor Lawrence.
The buy-in price for that card, that second card, is $2,850.
Sheesh.
Now the PSA 10 sells for $5,160. There is no recorded PSA 9 sale yet. It's because it's that new of a card.
I don't think I would be able to reach for that new of a card. And also, I'm also on Market Movers, and there's not a raw one even available, auctioned or fixed price on eBay. Therefore, I'm probably going to have to go T-Law, which is crazy because it's only $200 raw, and you can make 600 with a PSA 9. I feel like that is even though I don't believe in Trevor Lawrence, I do believe in $600 or $400 of profit. Am I reading this wrong?
I do too. No, you're right. I'm just looking to see on eBay if there's Kaboom.
There's no available.
Kaboom JJ McCarthy. There's Kaboom horizontals of JJ McCarthy, but you're right. There are none available. So astute choice by you, Lefty. So Trevor Lawrence goes to face Caleb Williams 2024 Donruss Downtown raw to grade.
Ooh.
So let me give you.
Okay. Let me give the numbers on this one. This one is a $600 buy-in.
672.
We've talked about this card before, especially because Turner's looking for this card.
672 buy-in, 723 in a PSA 9, 1437 in a PSA 10.
I would much rather have this card, even though it's a 3x buy-in of where Trevor Lawrence is. I just believe Caleb Williams is going to be easier to sell. Plus, I can already tell you that there are some available. Just because I know. Yeah, I'm looking at, even though they're overpriced, there are over 5 auctions and over 5 fixed prices that I'm assuming that I could snag one for around $650, $670. So,
and all of these, by the way, I would highly recommend paying the value plus $39.99 to get it back in 20 days, because then you're going to have it back for the national and the August selling season. Okay, so Caleb wins. So Caleb goes to face Michael Penix Jr. 2024 Donruss Downtown raw to grade. So
all right,
this card for Penix doesn't cost as much, $463, has almost as high a upside, basically a $1,200 upside in a PSA 10. And in PSA 9, you almost double your money, $756. So you might like Caleb, but
yeah, I like this card better. I like the numbers on this card better. And Penix is going to play, which does that matter? Yes, but no. Here's what I mean by no. I'm not going to wait until he plays to sell this card. But yes, because people know he's going to play. So people will buy the card expecting it. So I'm going to sell when they're like, oh, I'm going to get this before he gets on the field. And I'm going to be like, great, I got it in basketball season. Or baseball season, so that you can come out and buy it in football season, and I've made $300 on it.
Exactly. Exactly. So you're gonna pick Penix.
Yeah. I don't believe in his success next to Caleb's, but I do believe that the Atlanta market will pay what they are going to pay for this card.
I totally agree with you. Now, the final card is gonna be a perfect example of why I purposely boxed myself into only buying 5 players in 2025. Because if I had not have done that, then I wouldn't have gone back and analyzed exactly what worked and didn't work for me in the past. And I don't want to say that it didn't work all the time, but investing in rookie quarterbacks that are extremely expensive, like top tier rookie quarterbacks that are extremely expensive in their high dollar cards, basically evened itself out for me in the past. There were some wins and there were some massive losses. And so, and I'm talking about the CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson class specifically when I reference this, but I would be very, very tempted to buy Jaden Daniels 2024 Donruss Downtown. It's a $1,300 card. There is $3,200 upside in a PSA 10, and you essentially just lose your grading fee and your eBay fees because PSA 9 sells for the same as raw. And this is a play that I would be like all over if I wouldn't have boxed myself in. But I'm glad that I don't even have a temptation of making it because it's Michael Penix now downtown against Jaden Daniels downtown. Lefty, I just gave you my take. What do you think?
I'm going to pick the Penix, even though it sounds ridiculous, because there's room to make money on the 9 with Penix, and there's not room. I don't want to be out $79.99 from the grading fee. The grading fee, or $74.99 is the additional service available on the level of this card. If you're buying there's a $1,200 one out right now, this downtown, and it's got a scratch on the front of it. The buyer has done a pretty good job of taking a good picture with a little scuff on the front. So you're not going to get a 10. You're going to have to get a 9 at best for this card, and you're going to lose $74 right away. Now this card is best offer. So if you could get it down to like, I don't know, 900, maybe that's a play, but still the Penix is going to have so much more room for margin of error. And if we know anything about PSA over the last year, is they've been tougher on grading for us. And so I'm going to lean more making money on the 9. Give me a Penix downtown, which is crazy.
If you're a new listener to this show, or I would say just started listening within the last year, hit rewind on your podcast app and go back and listen to everything Lefty just said, because he's not saying that he likes Michael Penix better than JJ McCarthy or that he likes Michael Penix better than Caleb Williams. He's saying in this scenario, this Michael Penix Jr. card makes more sense than the other cards. And I totally agree.
It makes more sense and it makes more sense.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. And if you like JJ McCarthy, he has 2 cards that are the top 2 cards in our sports card rankings right now. So you can go buy, and maybe you don't have, maybe you're a new listener and you're frustrated by the fact that we're talking about downtowns and you can't afford a downtown. That's fine. Go to our sports card rankings. The top 2 cards in our sports card rankings are $16 and $18 cards raw. So, and you can make way more of a return on investment. Is so
cool.
The Purple Shock color match, Purple Shock Vikings, JJ McCarthy. And you know what's wild about this too? Not only are they the top 2 cards in our rankings, but there are no comps in a PSA 9. So for those of you that don't, there's, you guys might be like, well, what does that mean? Well, it means that when the way that our rankings looks at cards is it says, okay, what's the raw price? what's the PSA 10 price? What's the PSA 9 price? What grade? What's the gem rate? So the grade that you're likely to get. And then it says your projected average sale price is what's driving. It's derived from the grade that you're likely to get and the sale price of those grades. But then it is what drives the ROI number, and the ROI number is what puts the card at the top of the rankings. Well, it's not it's counting the PSA 9s as a 0. So because there are no sales. So it's bringing down the total average of those JJ McCarthy cards, and they're still projecting a 91 and a 92% ROI. So the Optic Green Hyper, the Optic Purple Shock, you're welcome. Sports Card Strategy Show, best place to learn money, how to make to learn how to make money.
To learn money.
To learn money and to learn how to make money. Money's just coming out everywhere on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Are you ready to start grading your cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today. We saw Susan and Andy Broom, and we talked to them quite a bit at Fanatics Fest. Lefty, it's time.
Can I speak on that for just a second?
You may. Dude,
I was thinking about this on my flight home. How many grading companies were at Fanatics Fest?
One.
And who was it?
CGC Cards.
That's big, I think. You know, because we were at first we were talking, we're like, yeah, where's the PSA booth? I need to go take this authentication, and they're like, they're not here. And I'm like, well, neither is Beckett. Neither is Tag.
Neither is SGC.
And I was like, oh my word. And then Krim goes, Krim said this. I like what CGC is doing. They have, if you look at the numbers, they have exploded in popularity over the past couple of months.
Could that be because of the Sports Card Strategy Show?
Could it be?
It maybe thanks in part. I would say thanks in part. I wouldn't say because CGC is legit.
I was just saying on the way home, I was thinking I'm a lot more confident in the political era relational aspect of the politics of the grading companies. I'm a lot more pro CGC this year than I was last year. Now, it will remain to be seen what happens in the future, but those $12.99 slabs look pretty good. That's all I'm saying.
They do. Yeah, good point. I was thinking about that too, and I'm really glad you brought it up because
when Michael
totally
Rubin is not bringing Beckett or PSA, that says a lot to me.
And I think Michael Rubin is like not through Fanatics, but I think Michael Rubin personally is an investor in Certified Collectibles Group, which is what, the CGC Cards is a subsidiary of Certified Collectibles Group. I could be wrong on that, but I think Michael Rubin has already been part of CGC in a way for the last several years. And so having them as the only grading company at Fanatics Fest is not only a big deal, but I think we know the reason behind it. So, great stuff. Vintage Play of the Month. This is where Lefty and I come up with some stuff that we don't normally talk about because we're normally talking about ultra modern stuff because of selling markers. What even are selling markers for vintage cards? Well, that's hard. It's really hard. Not that you can't make money on vintage cards, but if we're trying to make money in 3 to 6, 9, 12-month windows, it's hard to do it with vintage unless you start doing some of this kind of stuff, which I've started to do more of. Look at PSA 9s and then look at BGS 9.5s. Peyton Manning's 1998 Topps Chrome 165 in PSA 9 sells for $111. In BGS 9.5, it sells for $1,500. Now, the reason why I like the PSA 9 to BGS 9.5, I've talked about it on past episodes. PSA doesn't have anything between the 9 and the 10. They've got something in theory between the 9 and the 8 and on down the line, but they don't have anything at all and have not and probably never will have anything between the 9 and the 10. They don't have a mint plus. Well, we know BGS is their gem mint is 9.5, but we also know that a BGS 9.5 really doesn't equal a PSA 10 because a PSA 10 has different grading standards than a BGS 9.5. So if you can find a PSA 9 and look at the card and examine the card and put it against a BGS 9.5, you can net over $1,200 on this play. Peyton Manning 1998 Topps Chrome. Now, can you go find a PSA 9? Well, the reason I pick these cards that I talk about on the show is because they have a higher pop count. This is almost a pop 4,800 card. So yes, you should be able to find a Peyton Manning PSA 9. Another one, Cal Ripken Jr., 1982 Topps Traded PSA 9. This is a pop 4,500. It sells for $434 in a PSA 9, and it sells for almost $1,100 in a BGS 9.5. Same thing. Roger Clemens, 1985 Topps Tiffany 181 in PSA 9, pop almost $700, sells for $505 in a BGS 9.5, sells for $1,715. So worst case scenario, you get a BGS 9, you don't get a BGS 9.5. I've already done my research. All three of these cards sell for just about the same amount in a BGS 9. So definitely could be worth the risk. It's a high floor, super high ceiling for all three of these cards. Lefty, what do you think? Is there a particular one you like more than the others, or do you want to dispute my vintage plays of the month here? What are you thinking?
I really like the Peyton Manning play. One, because $111 5 times is not absurd. You know, like for me at $500-$600, that's not absurd, especially if all I have to do is get one of them to a 9.5 to make that money back double. You know, so I'm looking at it like that. Sure, $111 to $1,475 sounds amazing, but $600 to $1,475 sounds even better when you also add the likelihood that you get 5 shots at it.
I love that. Yeah, good take there. Hey, let me ask you a question. You know, you're familiar with our top sports card auctions at nooffseason.com.
Yes, sir.
You're familiar with how we can filter by player on those?
Yes, sir.
Would you be excited if I told you that I'm going to be adding a Peyton Manning page with this card featured on it so that
Absolutely.
Anyone who goes to nooffseason.com can just see these auctions that I'm talking about?
I would love that because I am trying to I might be making this play this week. Just because
I want to help you make the play.
I can convince myself that 505 shots to get a half subgrade sounds likely.
Do you like the content on this show? Do you want more? Go premium at nooffseason.com now to get unlimited advice answered by Lefty and I on Fridays. Sometimes we're actually publishing this on Thursdays because we record it on Thursdays and I just go ahead and publish it. Friday podcast for premium members called the Premium Pod. Go premium at nooffseason.com now. Multiple pricing tiers for weekly, monthly, and annual. Use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20% now. Lefty, would you like me to talk about something I did not know about PSA Autograph Authentication, or do you have something you'd like to add in this episode before our QA of the month pulled from the Premium Pod?
I was going to speak on the vintage play that I made this week where the Tiger Woods play that I showed you. So for those of you that are wondering, how are you going to make another different Tiger Woods play than the number one card that we have heard Lefty talk about over the last 5 years? I'm going to make a different play, and I did make a different play this year and this week, actually. So I went and talked about the opportunity. The Alberg cards got me thinking. I said, you know what? Alberg, which I did buy some of those, but that's not vintage. What I got to be thinking about is I said, you know what? I think there's actually an earlier version of Tiger Woods cards that are in Sports Illustrated for kids. And there are, and they sell pretty strong. A PSA 6, for instance, sells between $400 and $600. So I saw, okay, if I can go find a perforated version of this card, a raw, and if it looks like an authentic version of it, I think I can make some money here, depending on the different grade that I get. So I was able to find one that looks, from my eye, pretty good, especially for a Sports Illustrated for Kid ripped out card for $250. So essentially I have to either get a 5 or more on this card, and it looks pretty dang good. I showed the pictures to Paul in the hotel room, and he's like, you know what, Lefty? I think that's a pretty solid play. So I went back and I didn't go back and buy another one, but I have it in my hand here, and I've looked at it, I don't know, 25 times in the past 3 days. And I am excited to submit this card because I believe that this has the opportunity to 7 or 8. And if that happens, it will be a substantial win for Lefty McKee. So definitely a different kind of vintage play. Not the kind that we are very excited about to be cracking 9s and sending them to 9.5s. But that would classify to me as a vintage play that I made this month. And I think if you find good versions of that card raw, I think we can all be making that play.
Love it. Great play. Great suggestion to the Sports Card Strategy Show audience. And just make sure that you're not buying the 15th anniversary version of that card. Make sure you're buying, I believe it's 1996.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a cheaper one that came out 15 years later that has a that has a silver box at the bottom that says 15th anniversary, and yours has like a red box, I think, in the bottom left.
Yeah, it has
corner.
like a blue golf ball with a red tee.
Blue golf ball, red tee. Love it. Thanks. So I can't wait for that to be a huge win of the month at some point on the Sports Card Strategy Show for Lefty McKee. So real quick before we get into our QA of the month pulled from the Premium Pod, as I was submitting our Gary V, we bought V Friends blaster packs, and then we had Gary V sign them, and then I said I would submit them to PSA, which I have. But as I went to go submit them to PSA online, in their online submission form for packs, they don't have a autograph grade authentication on the pack. So like for cards, it's easy because you can, within the process of submitting the card, you can do a toggle to also add autograph authentication and or grade onto a card, which I'm sure Lefty's going to do with the card that he had Gary V sign. With the pack, I had to go into the autographs section of psacard.com where you download a PDF form, fill out the PDF form, do the calculations yourself as to how much it's supposed to cost, type in your credit card number on the PDF form. I mean, it is the opposite experience of submitting a card.
I'm sorry.
Like, we talk about how PSA has done a great job getting ahead of the other grading companies from a technological standpoint with the card submissions. And we know CGC is doing some great things there too that I think are coming, right? But let me tell you, PSA took a few steps backwards with the autograph authentication process because I just want my V Friends pack to be slabbed like a pack, but on the label, I want the autograph authenticated. I think I want the autograph graded, but not necessarily the pack graded. And I don't even know what I did on this PDF form. So we're crossing our fingers, baby.
Yeah, baby.
We're
Come on.
See what happens. But I did not know that. And it is very different to submit just an item for an autograph grade or the turnaround time is, I want to say like 90 days, I think is the turnaround time. 75 or 90 days for the lowest. Again, you had to do all these calculations yourself. So it was like doing my taxes.
So who knows? Who knows if Paul's doing the right math, guys?
It might not be right.
I bet it is.
Thanks, Kendall. All right. So Up next, we're going to give some props to one of our top premium members, Terry Anderson. Terry Anderson had a great question about when to sell Arch Manning, and I figured this would be a great one to bring into the Sports Card Strategy Show as our QA of the month pulled from the premium pod, because if you've been listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show at all over the last 2 years, you know how we feel about Arch Manning. And so we need to start those preparations for selling our Arch Manning cards. Now, I don't think now is the time to sell, but I think it's time to start thinking about what we're going to be doing with our Arch Manning cards come August. So, Lefty, here is our QA of the month from the premium pod. Paid $269 for a card. It's a PSA 10 Arch Manning SEC debut Panini Instant autograph card. He says also, I wouldn't have known about this card or how to grade it without nooffseason.com crew. So thank you. Terry, we love you, man. He bought the card back in November of 2024, paid $269. So let's look at what the card analyzer and predictor tool. Let's see if there's any sales data on this card. Going to the card analyzer and predictor tool now. And it looks like so Terry, we didn't get like a photo of your card or anything, but if this is the AMC, we talked about this card out of 99, the AMC, like I'll show you here. All right, so this AMC Arch Manning, I'm going to chart it in PSA 10, autographed. I mean, the open edition auto went for $850. That's outstanding. So if we chart these two sales, it's an average price of $1,000. Two sales at exactly $1,000. I would list it. I think this actually goes full circle back over to the first question we had in today's show, which would have been from Jeffrey about when to list and to buy it now and when to list in an auction. This is a classic situation of what I was talking about earlier. List this right now and to buy it now for $1,000. And then someone should bin it based on those last two comps. If they don't, I think you're in a great situation to change it to an auction in, say, July, late July, when there's more hype building for the college football season. And Arch Manning is going to be in just about every news publication as a Heisman hopeful as the starting quarterback for the Texas Longhorns, which is going to be my selling marker for a lot of my Arch Manning plays. So being that it is a PSA 10, you have done very well on this card, $269 on a card that is now worth $1,000. So great job, everyone out there making money flipping sports cards. We really appreciate all of your support. Everybody have a great weekend. More great content coming to all of you soon. Don't forget to keep your questions coming. Go to nooffseason.com/ask. Have a great day. So, Lefty, there we go. We got discussions already building on the Arch. We got discussions already building on the Arch Manning sales. And what are you thinking in terms of? I mean, you see in the question from Terry that it was very card specific. So it to me, it's always based on what did you pay for the card? What is the card selling for now? And if you're into it for significantly less than what it's going for currently, then you could definitely put it up in a buy it now and field offers. And then obviously, if you're not in that great of a situation, then you need to take a look at, something like a selling marker down the line. I think with Arch, it's going to be very interesting because there's going to be so much hype about around him. He's already very expensive. We didn't see any Arch cards out at Fanatics Fest. Will we see more Arch cards out at the National, do you think? What do you think Arch's prices will do leading up to the season? And do you think it will take a performance spike because his prices are so high? Do you think it'll take a performance spike like a win over Ohio State? We know you hate Texas, but how are you sort of scouting out your Arch Manning cards?
I think when you talk about shows, there are specific times where you can go to a card show and you can try to find a specific card and they're not there because nobody wants to sell that specific player. I go back to the 2023, I believe, National, where me and you were trying to find Jackson Holiday autos. Nobody was selling Jackson Holiday autos, and especially not for comps, because they just we just kind of knew, everyone knew, the whole hobby knew there was going to be a selling point, and it was definitely not now. I think that's what we saw with Arch Manning, because the stuff I did see a couple, but the stuff I did see was $200 to $300 over comps easy. And that's on a less than $1,000 card, so that's 20-30% higher than where they're at. I do think that we will see Arch cards at the National, because that's a little bit closer. It's a different clientele as well. And I think we will see Arch cards more prevalently there, but I still think we won't see them enough until next year. Next year, we'll see Arch cards everywhere, I believe, because everybody will be trying to get out of his cards, because he'll either have done whatever he's done. He's going to get drafted in the NFL, blah, 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 barring an injury, all that stuff. But this year is people are acquiring Arch. It's a rat race to acquire cards when there's not very many of them. And now in retrospect, or not retrospect, but in respect to where other pop counts are for athletes. I mean, think about how many Arch cards there are in comparison to Caleb Williams. There's probably a million more, if not more, like X of Caleb Williams, because he's had time, many more parallels, many more sets. He's got college, he's got NFL, he's got, all this other stuff. We just really have what we do have from the Instants and the Bowmans and the Prisms from Arch.
No Bowmans, but all the Prism.
I meant the rated rookies. Sorry, rated prospects or whatever.
Rated prospects. Yeah, Arch has had cards out since 2023, so there are a lot of Arch cards. But you're right, not even close to as many as Caleb has. I think I might bring my Arches to the National.
Yeah,
and just shop them around, and if I can get somebody who wants to prospect on him, because they're like, I didn't see any Arch cards out at Fanatics Fest. I know you said you saw a couple. If you think about all the cards, and as popular as Arch is, if no one's selling them at these big shows in the summer, it could be an opportunity, because I've been acquiring Arch cards for a couple of years now, and I've got a few big ones. Why not bring them to the National, shop them around? I got to remind myself I won't need the cash. Don't just sell them for 10% profit. I've got to have to sell these for 40, 50% profit cash for it to make sense, because then I'm also saving on fees. I think the downside would be, what if he does start the year like 4-0 and is just tearing it up, and then I'm leaving a 4, 5, 6x on the table, that kind of a thing. But
what if he gets hurt in game 1?
That's right. And that's why I think we all have to weigh our options with these Arch cards that we have. What card do you have? How much are you into that card? And do you believe that how much do you believe / want to get 2, 3, 4x out of it? And that also, I think, depends on what does the rest of your portfolio look like? I mean, are you up a ton on the rest of your portfolio and you feel like you're playing with house money and you can wait, 1-2 games into the season? He's got Ohio State in week 1. That could go very wrong for Texas. It could go very right. So, I mean, for me, I'm still thinking the hype leading up to it. I'm still thinking if I don't sell him at the National, I'm going to have him listed in a buy it now leading up to that game. Hopefully someone will buy it. If they don't, hopefully he will play well in week 1. Otherwise, it could be, it gets risky at that point. There's a lot of risk and reward with Arch Manning.
And you don't want to wait till week 18 when Texas A&M plays them and they ruin their perfect season.
There it is.
You just don't.
There it is. And the other little thing here, just so everybody knows, like, Arch will not be eligible for the NFL draft until, let's just look this up. Arch Manning,
I think
NFL
it's next
draft.
season.
Arch Manning is eligible for the 2026 NFL draft.
Yep.
Wow.
Because of the year that he redshirted, it's counting as his 3rd year at Texas.
That's true. So While some mock drafts project him as a top pick, possibly even number 1 overall, there's speculation he may return for his senior year at Texas. Well, it wouldn't be his senior year. It would be his 4th year, but it wouldn't be his senior year. And, he hasn't done anything yet. He flashed a little bit, which I was excited about last year. But other than that, he's just basically just been a bench warmer and a big name on the bench because of his last name. And that's pretty much why I've bought into him, everybody. So I don't know that he's going to be a Heisman Trophy winner. I don't know that he's going to be the number 1 overall draft pick. I will say this, though. It's going to be a tough decision because if he does perform, he will be like the biggest number 1 draft pick in the NFL draft that we've had in a long time, possibly ever. Why? Because both of his uncles were also number 1 overall draft picks and then won multiple Super Bowls. So this is that was the reason why I decided to buy into Arch in the first place. I've already made a lot of money off of Arch, but I'm sitting here and I'm telling you, it's not an easy decision on when to sell Arch. I think it does remind me of the Jackson Holiday situation at the National. And we saw what happened with different sport, different everything, but we saw what happened with Jackson Holiday's prices when he didn't come up and play well right away in the MLB. So it's a tough one.
I'm looking forward to it. Regardless,
acquire more Arch before August. That way I can sell 75% of my Arch.
He's one of your 5, so go ahead.
Be up and then keep the other 25% in case it just goes Arch madness. For real,
I would say he might be the out of the 7, including the 2 asterisks. He's the person I've heard you talk about the least this year. I think maybe Shohei.
Yeah, Shohei, I think I've talked about the least. Arch, probably true second least. I think it's because
they're later in the year seasons.
Well, no, I think it's because of their cards. I think Arch,
and you got burned by some grading submissions.
His 2024 Prism draft picks grading is god awful. I look at all those. I'm cracking them all out and selling them raw. I've said this on a past episode, so I'm going to say it again. If you're buying raw cards from the No Offseason Sports Cards eBay account, don't, because they're all raw cards that I've cracked out. And so if you see an Arch Manning one, maybe go feel my pain a little bit and look at it and see what the heck's wrong with this thing. I don't know, PSA. What's wrong with it? Are there print lines on it that I don't see? Is the entire batch of 2024 Arch Manning Prism draft picks just screwed from a grading standpoint? I don't know, but it's a tough one. So I am, Terry Anderson says, which Arch are you buying? Honestly, 2023 Prism draft pick Saturday Star signatures. That's the one I've talked most about. It continues to go up in value. Lefty's got 2 of them right there. I've got 2 right here. One's a base and one's a silver. Same. And I'm going to try to keep buying as many of those as possible. But listen, I'm only buying Arch, and really I'm only buying anything from whether it's Wemby, Shohei, Arch, Caitlin, or Michael Jordan, whether it's a card show or online, I'm only buying eBay auctions, which is funny that I just said, even if it's a card show, I'm only buying eBay auctions, but that's pretty much what I'm doing. Lefty, anything you have to add for today before I hit him with the outro?
I think we're just in a good spot. I think coming out of basketball, coming into a season where we're going to be into buying again, coming into some big profit in the fall, looking forward to where our portfolios are at after the National.
I also think we're the only sports card podcast that is actually feeding families. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. If you enjoyed the content on today's show, there's plenty more waiting for you at nooffseason.com. Just go to nooffseason.com right now and get a free 30-day trial. You get our formula-based sports card rankings, sports card school, inventory tracker, the ability to grade with us, and the premium podcast where we answer an unlimited amount of your questions. Check it out right now at nooffseason.com. For everyone at nooffseason.com, I'm Paul Hickey. Thanks again for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day.